Hello everyone, this is John again, and welcome back to what is now part 4 or video 4 of my Koine Greek tutoring video series. We had left off in video 3 on part 3 of my lesson guide, and remember I used the same lesson guide throughout all my lessons. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, see the video description, you'll find it there. Okay, what do we have here now? We're dealing again with cases, prepositions, objects, and verbs, and how they interact. All of them interact to tell the Greek story. Focus on all of these here, understand their function within a Greek sentence, and you'll be able to master Greek within a short amount of time. So, what we did in our last lesson, we left off on the cases, and now we have to go over them to see how they interact or affect nouns in a Greek sentence, particularly objects. The objects are the ones that for the most part take on all these different cases. So the accusative case. Somebody or something gets the blame. The accusative, they're being accused. Yes, there is literally an accusation being carried out on the object, so to speak. This is described by the action that the subject carries out onto, and notice the words onto, here the object. The subject, in a sense, has direct contact. See the train and car example above. It has direct contact on the object. So this train has direct contact onto this car, remember? Okay. So, we're going to go over an example of this in Wikipedia. If you haven't seen the Greek section yet in Wikipedia, please go over that, the Greek grammar section. It's very easy to learn and not too exhaustive. So in ancient Greek, we read here first in English. He was also calumniating Socrates. Calumniating means he was slandering him. Διέβαλε δε και τον Socratin. Now, notice the word Socrates in Greek. Socratin. Socrates with the sigma. Here, that's its nominative case with the sigma. Whereas in the accusative case, Socratin, okay, you have the ni there at the end. This makes all the difference in the world with Greek. Also look at the article of Socrates, ton. It's not o, which is the nominative. Okay, it's not o, but it's now ton. Note, look for both changes in both the article and the object itself. Okay, so the article and the object itself. See that? Well, this is what you're looking at here. Accusative, article, accusative, object right here. Look for that. And this will tell you that you are dealing with the accusative. This same and of course it's the object. This same situation applies in all the Greek, in all the cases in Greek. Figure this out and you have already learned Greek for the most part. End of story. The Greek story. Next, look for the subject here in the sentence. Can you find it? Not really, right? Well, why is this? You were looking for a noun doing an action, were you not? But you didn't find one there, okay? Because that's what we've been talking about. Looking for the object and the subject in a sentence. Okay, the object will be in the various Greek cases. The subject will just, for the most part, will be in the nominative, 95% of the time. There's an exception where it is in the accusative when associated with an infinitive verb form. And we'll go over that later. But for the most part, this is what you need to learn. Okay, you didn't find one in our sentence, did you? A noun that would be a subject. But you saw what? A verb. Διέβαλε. Well, in this case, as well as every other case, okay, this is all you need to recognize. This is all you need to know in order to recognize the subject. It's a verb. Remember, the verb is associated with it. So here again, Dievale the keton Sokratin. Well, Sokratin we know is not the what? Object. I'm sorry, subject. Okay, we have a verb here, active. So therefore, that is associated with the subject. Now, if you can't recognize what this verb is, or its ending, or any of that, then you need to go over your verb charts that you are receiving from your professor in your seminary classes. And those are very important. You need to be able to, you need to go over those and be able to recognize what tenses verbs are in. You also need to recognize what type of verb it is, what conjugation it belongs to. If it's an active verb, if it's middle or passive. You may not have gone over this stuff yet, but again, I'm teaching you secrets how to, in order to unlock the mysteries of Greek grammar. All this other extra stuff, like conjugating verbs and things of that sort, you need to go over for yourself in your own time. Those are pretty easy and straightforward, but I may do a video on that too in subsequent lessons. So, this is what you're looking at here. Dievale. That's all you need to know to find the subject. Now, here's an interesting note here too. Remember, as we stated above, the subject has a verb with it when it does the action because it is the verb that conveys the action itself. Remember this. So, when the subject appears to not be in the sentence, that's okay because the verb still tells you it's still there. Also, look for the subject in its noun form in previous or latter parts of the context that you are dealing with. It will be there, trust me. So in other words, say for example you're reading the sentence here, Dievale the keton Sokratin, and you didn't really find a noun that would be the subject. You just saw the verb. Okay? Now, if you're reading a Greek passage, most likely 99.9% of the time, the actual subject will be in its noun form. You will find it as a noun in passages or in a sentence before this type of scenario where you only see the verb, not the noun, or after. It'll be in the context there. Look for it. Look for a noun that is in the, that's associated with this information here. Let's say, for example. All right. But look for around, this type of a sentence when you only see the verb. Look around it in other sentences, ones before it or subsequent to that, because you're going to find the noun there somewhere, okay, which is, again, the subject. You're going to find the subject somewhere, okay? Now, nevertheless, Greek sentences sometimes omit the actual noun from the subject due to redundancy. Don't let this throw you off. Now, let's go over the genitive case real quick. The genitive case, something's being possessed, because genitive deals a lot with possession, right? Possession is the general idea we get here, but there is more to the genitive. For an exhaustive lesson on this, please see the website newtestamentgreek.org, okay? And you can go here to this link, copy and paste it in your browser, and it's going to show you basically more uses of the genitive case. And this website, ntgreek.org, that's ntgreek.org, will show you a lot of great material in order to learn Greek, and I totally give them credit for this because I am using some of their information here as well as other websites to teach you the mysteries and the secrets of Greek here. Now, let's look at this example below. Again, we're using biblos.com or biblesuite.com, which is this website here. Bible Hub, actually. And the Bible Suite, as I mentioned in my previous lesson, biblesuite.com, is like its mobile phone app version, because it's more limited here. It's the same exact website, but this is like its mobile phone. Anyway, Bible Hub, actually, BIBLEHUB.com. That's our website. Remember, we've been using this and discussing this in other lessons. So, let's look at this sentence here. And the eunuch answered Philip and said, I pray thee, of whom speaketh the prophet, this of himself or some other man. In Greek, apokrythis δε ο ευνούχος το Φιλίππο είπεν, δεόμε σου, περί τίνος ο προφήτης λέγει τούτο, περί εαυτού ή περί ετέρου τίνος. First, let us find the subject here. What is it? It's going to be the eunuch, right? Why is that? He's in the nominative. Nominative article, o, male article. Evnuchos, that's the nominative. Okay, it's obvious in English, right? Look at English. Again, we're comparing English grammar with Greek grammar in my lessons. The eunuch answered Philip and said. So the eunuch is like the main guy here, right? Subject. That's the subject in grammar. The guy who's doing the action. And it says here, he answered and said. He answered and said. In Greek, apokrythis ke ipen. You're dealing with two verbs that have active meanings. This here is actually a middle deponent, which is what we went over in my previous lesson. From apokrinome, this is ipen, which is the aorist of lecho, to say. Okay, that's a straight active verb right there. Okay, so notice the phrase the eunuch says here in English. I pray thee, which in Greek is theomesu. Here it is here, theomesu. Theomesu. I pray thee. Theome is exerting action on the object, which is the personal pronoun su, meaning of you. You in the singular though. Singular personal pronoun. That's second person singular personal pronoun. Su, which is in the genitive, right? It's not se, which would be the accusative. It's su. Now, if you haven't gone over personal pronouns yet, okay, go over those right now. You can stop the video, or make sure to just understand them and basically how they function. That's the I, ego, right? The you, si, sigma epsilon, right? The he, she, it, st, all right? Go over those and understand their function in the different cases, because those are in different cases too. This right here is si, which is nominative, okay? But because we're dealing with the genitive, it has to be su, all right? Now, you may be asking yourself, why is this object in the genitive and not in other cases, all right? Well, that is because the concept is first self-evident in English. I pray or beg of thee. I beg of thee. See that? Now, in the King James here, let's see. I pray thee, he says, right? Or it could be I pray of thee. I ask of thee. Okay? So, let's see here now. It's first self-evident in English, I beg of thee, or ask thee, beg of thee. All right? I beg of thee is a genitive article in English. So, therefore, the same is portrayed in Greek, in other words, su. Because, in other words, in English, it's I beg of thee, or I ask of thee, entreat of thee. In Greek, the of thee must be reflected too in the genitive. Here it's of thee in English, right? Of thee. All right? In Greek, all you got to do is put su. The personal pronoun itself does that for you. The of thee is encapsulated in just su. See that? Of thee. Unless you read up on the complete definitions of Greek verbs, this will not be readily apparent to you. However, the action of the verb here upon the objects, as it is expressed through the genitive case, is evident if you understand this. If you understand this point. Again, that certain types of verbs convey action through the genitive. Your job is to find out what kind of Greek verbs use the genitive to convey an action onto an object. You can go over an exhaustive Greek verb chart for that. Also, you need to figure out, in general, what Greek verbs use what cases. Use which cases. We will go over this too in subsequent lessons because this is important too. Let's go over the dative case now. All right? It means to something, for something, or at something, someone or something, an object, let's say. Okay, this is used a lot with Greek verbs. So, for example, below, in English, we read, here, this is James 2:23. Again, BibleSuite.com. And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed to him for righteousness, etc. Και επληρώθη η γραφή η λέγουσα, επίστευσεν δε Αβραάμ το Θεό. Okay? Now, notice the phrase here, Abraham believed God. This is what we're focusing on here. Abraham believed God. Here it is. In Greek, it's επίστευσεν δε Αβραάμ το Θεό. And also note here, I'm using the modern Greek pronunciation for ancient Greek. I'm not using the Erasmus pronunciation. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But the modern Greek pronunciation is a lot easier to use. And that's what I teach my students first before we go on to the more difficult pronunciation. And we may cover that in subsequent lessons. Okay, επίστευσεν δε Αβραάμ το Θεό. The subject here, Abraham, right? He believes in God. The action here you see plus the object. Abraham believed in God. Abraham, what? Subject, believed. What is that? Verb, right? Active. Believing is an active verb. Okay, God. What is God here? The object. See that? Believing is an action in Greek and is expressed through the dative. Look at the next part, believed God. In Greek, it's believed in God. Okay, he put his trust in God, to Theou. That is God in Greek, in the dative. It's not in any other case, basically. The article is to, the object itself is Theou. Okay, so the original nominative form of this noun for God, okay, would be o Theos, o, and then Theos. Now, notice that the change came about in the dative case, okay, and there are the deep reasons for that, but understand how, okay, the dative works, what type of verbs it uses. In this case, if it's a verb that is believing in something, okay, it's going to use this verb when dealing with an object. It's going to use the dative case. And we're going to go over more specifically how this works. Okay, we're going to go over a list of certain Greek verbs that are usually used in, let's say, ancient Greek times or in biblical Greek, and what type of cases that they use in order to put action on objects. Okay, we're going to go over that. We're going to show you a complete exhaustive list, but you're getting a taste of how that works here. Now let's quickly go over the vocative. That means just get vocal with someone, yell at them, or just address them. This is what the vocative is, okay? Let's see this example below from James 2:14 again. Okay, we have used this scripture in the past. We're going to go over it again. All right. Τι όφελος αδελφοί μου, εάν πίστη λέγητης, έχειν έργα δε μη έχει. What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Okay, now just focus here with me on this phrase, my brethren here, my brethren in Greek. Okay, in English. In Greek, it's adelphimu. It looks just like the nominative case, right? If, again, you've been going over the cases for nouns and adjectives in your seminary homework or whatever, or in class. Okay, well, this is because, for the most part, the vocative does remain just like the nominative because it really is a subject without a verb. Okay, it's a subject without a verb. Okay, basically, you know, it's there. They're part of the it's part of the sentence. Okay, my brethren. Okay, they're being addressed that way. There's really no action being put upon them. Okay, by anyone, and they kind of are. And in this situation, it is the main theme. Okay, so what it is in the vocative phase, what it's expressing is that a noun in this type of situation, my brethren, is the main theme. Okay, because he's talking to the brethren, adelphimu, my brethren. So no action is being put upon it. It's not going into every other case, and it looks just like the nominative. So this is like a subject without a verb. So at this point, we really are not putting too much emphasis on the nominative and vocative cases because they're easy to understand, and they really deal with subjects of sentences and not the objects. At this point, we have covered the Greek cases enough for the Greek student to get pretty much acquainted with how they work. We saw how objects in their various cases are altered. Okay, we saw that. We shall now see how objects are also altered when dealing with prepositions. So verbs, okay, can alter objects, but also prepositions. Prepositions, when they work in conjunction, okay, with the verbs, which again are associated with the subjects. Note this. Let's go over this. Overview of Greek prepositions. What are they? Well, they are simple. They are simply the parts of speech that convey the froms, or the on top ofs, or the out ofs, or the throughs, and other similar vehicles by which verbs, whether active or passive or middle deponent, can express themselves. Okay? It is that simple. Now let's just go over how they work so you see what I mean. Take a moment and think about how these concepts work in English. It is the same way in Greek. I go to something. I go through something. Okay? However, Greek gets a bit more descriptive than the English, as you can guess. The prepositions alter objects just like active and middle deponent verbs do. Okay? The prepositions can alter objects just like active and middle deponent verbs do. Many times the preposition works hand in hand with the verb in order to accomplish the action. So let's look at my example below. All right, here we go. Here's the sentence. All right. And what we're going to do is focus on the phrase shall rest upon it in Greek. Okay, so επανεπαΐσεται επ' αυτόν. Επανεπαΐσεται επ' αυτόν. Okay, see that there? Shall rest upon it. So look at the sentence. And if the Son of Peace be there, your peace shall rest upon it. If not, it shall return to you again. Και αν εκεί ή ιός ειρήνης, επανεπαΐσεται επ' αυτόν η ειρήνη ημών. Alright, look at it here. Shall rest upon it. Alright, what we're going to do is focus on the upon it part. Okay, επανεπαΐσεται, it shall rest upon ep it, αυτόν. Ep is what we're looking at here. Its regular form is epi, epsilon pi iota. Here we have the verb επανεπαΐσεται from επαναπαύομαι in the nominative form. The preposition ep, which is abbreviated, which its real form is epi, And of course we have the object, afton. Nominative form is aftos. This is, again, accusative. Number one, look for who, the subject, okay, is doing the action. All right? Who's doing the action? Look for that. Second, look at who the object is. Look at who, meaning the object, is being affected here. Okay, who's being affected here? Who's the object? And third, what is a preposition? Okay, and what is it doing to the object? Because as you can see, the preposition is next to the object, not the verb. So look at it. Preposition, look at this, next to the object. Here's the verb. All right? So you are probably saying to yourself now, isn't it the subject's verb that is altering the object? Okay? This is a good observation. In other words, isn't it the verb that's doing it? But you also need to learn, okay, that prepositions in conjunction, here's the key here, with verbs, conjunction with verbs, can also alter objects. The reason that afton, meaning him, looks this way in the accusative is because ep, or a p in its full form, has altered it. See this? Ep, afton, ep altered it. See that? Nevertheless, the subject's verb, epanapaisete, triggered. Look at this here, triggered. Key word here, triggered the action so that the preposition would end up altering the object. So that the preposition epi would end up altering the object. Ended up making it afton. Let's look at this visual here with me. Okay, we have two cars here. All right, the subject is epanapaisete, correct? And why is that? All right, because it's a verb doing the action, okay? All right, so in this case, actually, what you can say is with this type of verb, which is a it's a middle and sort of a passive. See that? And we went over that in lesson 3. Okay? Here, really, it is a subject. Okay? And it's doing an action here. It's resting. See that? It's triggering this situation with the ep. Okay? And the afton. Epanapaiste ep afton. See that? Okay, and it sort of has an actual passive situation here too. And this is where it can be a little tricky. Okay, but nevertheless, what I'm showing you here is it's a subject. All right, epanapaiste from the verb epanapavome, which is its nominative form. Okay, so it is the subject, and this type of verb, okay, is pretty much a passive, but I believe it is also a middle deponent, okay? But the point is here is that it's triggering this situation, okay? It's triggering the situation. If Parapaisa does the action here, it rests. It itself actually is resting, okay? Now this is where it gets tricky. It itself is resting upon, okay? And this is the reason why we're using a P here, okay? Upon, epi. So preposition ep here, which equals upon. Notice preposition, okay? Or I'm sorry, notice the position of the two cars, okay? Notice the position here. I'm showing you here with this box here, all right? Okay, and then the object is afton, right? Which is the taxi here. It receives the action. Okay? So this verb, okay, epanapavome, okay, in its future, epanapaisete, okay, this is sort of like a middle deponent, like I said, and passive, because remember that middle deponents can act as passive too. So it's resting here, okay? But this type of verb in this type of scenario, what I want you to focus on is it needs a preposition like a P in order to do its action. This is the point here. All right, so it's doing its action here, but it needs a P. All right, in order to do it. Rest upon. In Greek, you need to have basically the upon here. It can't just do it by itself. It can't just put action by itself. Okay, so resting upon, because the point of what I'm trying to say is epanapavome itself in its definition means to rest upon. Okay, but it needs a P in order for this action to be carried out. All right, and these are subtlety with Greek verbs, which you'll have to understand and go over, later. But my section in part 3, basically on the middle deponent verbs, goes over this, and this will help you to distinguish this. It will help you to recognize this type of situation. Epi, upon, notice the position of the two cars. This is the epi part. The object is the taxi, okay? Afton, this is afton. All right, it's receiving the action primarily again from epi, the preposition. There you go. So we have here, what do we have here? Subject, which is this car here. Epanapaisata, preposition, ep or p. Object, okay, afton, which is, this taxi. See that? Okay, look at these cars here from top to bottom, because that represents our line of thought here. Go from top to bottom now. The first car is on top, the silver one. Okay, the verb starts the action. It makes contact with the yellow car, the object. Now, the verb in our verse here can do an action all by itself, of course, like I said before, but it needs the preposition to help it convey the upon concept. Okay, upon the object. And this is precisely why a preposition can alter an object to or also in Greek. Note this. In English, of course, we don't have to have this. Okay? We don't have this. But if you really think about it, the same process occurs in English grammar too, but not as vivid and precise as it does in Greek. It would really help the Greek student, though, to create for him or herself visual aids visual aids for learning more deeper, okay, the English grammar, because then Greek will become even more easier to learn. The student should take what we have learned in Greek here and apply it to English with the same vividness. And of course, English will become more powerful and vivid in your mind too. Visual aids like the ones we've used for Greek should be used. Okay, look at this example below really quick. We have a guy walking up steps. Okay? He steps onto the steps. He steps onto the steps. See this now? Okay, he rests onto it. See that? Επαναπαίσεται επ αυτόν. All right, so he steps. The feet are stepping onto the step is the onto process. Action of the subject, person. See him? Onto, all right, is the preposition. Epi in Greek, right? As we described here, epi. Onto, this is the onto process. See his feet onto the steps. Steps are what? The objects. The steps. Okay, let's go over a quick overview of Greek objects. By now, the Greek student should be able to at least recognize a Greek subject, but also the object in a sense. Okay, let's go back to our Socrates example in 3a of our study guide. In ancient Greek it says, Διέβαλε δε και τον Σοκράτην. We said that Socrates is the object. Socrates is the object. Socrates, again, is Greek. Because its case has been altered. Correct? It has been altered. Let this ring in your head for a bit. The case has been altered. This is the key here. Whatever noun or adjective that may appear in a sentence where it's not in its nominative is an indication of the object. Plain and simple. If it's not in the nominative, okay, you're seeing a noun, right? Whatever the noun or adjective, it appears in a sentence, okay? If it appears in a sentence and it's not in the nominative case, it's a clear indication it's the object. So look at these here. We have this axe striking the target here. We have this guy, he's about to smack the ball. Okay, what you see here in Greek in real life examples. Okay, what you see here is Greek, in real life examples. This is Greek right here. You're looking at Greek. You're looking at Greek here. This is how Greek works. This is the vividness, in other words, that Greek creates in your mind, or should at least create in your mind. The target to the left is altered, correct? Think Greek case alteration here. All right? Object is the target. It's been altered. Okay? The Greek object's case is literally changed, just like this target that now has a crack in it. The ball will be altered. See the ball? Once it's hit. And it actually does get altered when it does get hit. The funny thing is, it is your duty as a Greek student to learn and memorize the Greek cases and how each person, the first, second, third person, singular and plural, if you're dealing with objects, is altered and affected. And the verb will simply explain that part to you. Remember that. So let's go over a quick note on Greek verbs. In previous sections, we went over the adjective, the active verbs, which can be both middle, deponent, active. They both do an action on the object, correct? All right, so in our next lesson, we're going to go over a simple method or formula by which the Greek student can solve an enigmatic or confusing sentence, which is kind of like trying to solve a complex mathematical equation, because that's really what Greek is. It's like solving a mathematical formula. And we're going to go over my Greek formula in my next lesson, which is going to teach you this. This is my own special formula that I've designed. And when you use this formula, it will basically help you solve any Greek sentence, figure out any Greek sentence, understand any Greek sentence. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next lesson.